Hi, my name is Andy White, and today I'd like to demonstrate using ForgeRock OpenAM 12.0's REST APIs, and specifically the policy engine endpoints from within the context of a mobile application. To start, I've installed OpenAM on an EC2 instance, as you can see here, and I've also put together a very simple Apache Cordova mobile application, which we can see right here running in the iPhone 6 Plus emulator. You can see it's got three main tabs: the login screen to get a session token, some configured REST endpoint calls, and then a log where everything gets logged to. And we'll go through this a little bit more in just a second. But first I want to log into OpenAM so we can look at what's going on both sides, both the OpenAM server and our mobile client. Okay, we're logged in, and we can see that there is just one active session for the user we just logged in as. So let's now go log in from our mobile client. And this first time I'm actually going to mistype the password just to show that in addition to the HTTP status code that you would expect to get back, you also get back some messaging that you could potentially display to an end user about what went wrong. And you can see the call that was made was a post to OpenAM JSON authenticate with the username and password header. So let's try it again here. And you can see this time it did work, and that we have our session token. So for subsequent calls that require authentication, we do not need to pass a username and password header. We just pass this session token in an HTTP header, and it identifies us to OpenAM. And you can see over on the OpenAM side here that we do indeed have a session for our mobile demo user. Now let me step through a couple of the endpoints we have here. But first, I guess I wanted to just highlight that in the OpenAM Developer's Guide here, there are about 5 or 6 chapters devoted to the REST endpoints. There are a lot of different endpoints. You probably would never need all of them in a single mobile application. It just depends on what you're trying to do. But I highlight in this mobile app, in this demo, just a couple of the simpler ones and then a couple around authorization. So this first call is just going to do a get for the current user that's logged in, our mobile demo user. And you can just see this brings back some different information about them that you potentially could maybe use in your application. This next call does a server info call, which you actually do not even need to be authenticated to make this one. I'm not sure if you'd use this in a mobile application. I just put it in here to demonstrate the ease of making the different REST calls. And you can see here that those two calls were a get on OpenAM JSON users, our user mobile demo, and the next one was on server info. So these next couple are around applications and policies, which is where some of this starts to come together. So let me flip back over to OpenAM first and show what we have set up for this demo. So I set up a demo application with two associated resources, mobile app screen 1 and mobile app other screen. Just dummy things, but the idea being that these would be represent different screens or pages in your mobile application. And then I set up a policy for each of those that we'll take a look at. And you can see in here that the only actions available are the different HTTP verbs. That is something that you can only do that in this the default end user interface that ForgeRock provides here. Your only actions can be the HTTP verbs. But for something like a mobile application, you would probably define other ones. For instance, maybe create, update, modify, and you can define anything you want. You need to create those through the REST API versus through the UI here. But I think this is probably fine for the demo. You probably get the idea of what we're trying to do here. So we have an application and we have two policies configured. Let's see how that all looks over in our mobile app. The first call here is a get to JSON applications. Query filter equals true. What this is going to do is it's going to list all different applications that are configured, which you'll see our application that we have configured here. It's going to be the second one, I believe. this demo application with our couple resources. You probably wouldn't ever call this endpoint either from a mobile app because it's listening back more than you need. But the reason I wanted to show it was, again, it's easy REST call to make, and there's some fun historical stuff down that comes back that doesn't even show up in the UI that kind of shows some of the heritage of the product. You see paycheck.sun.com, there's a calendar.sun.com, some of these different things that still exist in the product configured as applications. So anyway, let's go back to our endpoints screen here. So now we're just going to get our particular application that we have configured here, our demo application. This is probably where you would start in your mobile application. You'd get your application and you'd get different resources. And where this starts to come together as far as an authorization model from a mobile app is having policies applied to the different resources. So we can list all the policies we have applied. We can see here that we have demo policy 2, which applies to mobile app screen, and then we have demo policy, which applies to mobile app other screen, corresponding to what we have over here. So now, from the purposes of authorization, what you would do in your mobile application is ask OpenAM to evaluate for you whether the current user should have access to things before you display them or transition to them. So what we're going to do here is ask OpenAM to do a policy evaluation for us for different resources, and I'll show what that REST call looks like in just a sec. But you can see here that OpenAM is saying that for resource mobile app other screen, we should have, we should be able to do the get action, and we should be able to do the options action. And it's also returning just kind of a fake attribute here that you can configure. It's saying for this current user, for the mobile app screen, we should have no access. Okay, so let's take a look at that call first. So you can see what we did was we asked OpenAM JSON policies to evaluate for the resources mobile app screen and mobile app other screen and for the application. So we're asking it to tell us if the user should have access to the stuff. So let's see why the user did not have access to that first one, why they did not have access to the mobile app screen. So we'll go over to OpenAM here. We'll take a look at this policy, and you can see that it's set up for this user. You can see that what I set up was an environment condition, that this user should only have access to this resource on Wednesday and Thursday, and today is actually Tuesday. So let's just get rid of that environment condition, and then let's also add another value here. So these are upon a successful response, you can pass back different data in your JSON response, or upon a successful evaluation. So let's say you have access. Add that. Next. Alright, so now our policy for this mobile app screen is updated. Let's go back to our application here, and let's try this endpoint again. So we'll ask for a new evaluation. Now OpenAM says that this user should have access to it, that the actions they have are the HTTP verb head, and then a couple additional attributes that, these are static ones we typed in, but they could also be coming from the underlying directory. So that, kind of tying it all together, this is how you could totally externalize the authentication or authorization from your mobile app, where, but depending on, if the button does show up, doesn't show up, the screens the user transitions to, it's all externalized into OpenAM. And where that really starts to get powerful is when you think about it across lots of different mobile applications you might have, that from a central point you can manage it all, and that a lot of that logic comes out of the applications itself. So you can think, for instance, if a user has upgraded their subscription, for instance, just by the fact of putting them in a new group in the directory or setting an attribute on them and having a policy set up to look at that, the next time the user is in the application, they're going to have access to new stuff that they didn't before, and that all lives outside of the application itself. So for our final call here, we're just going to log out. And you can see that the way we did that was just a post to OpenAM JSON sessions action logout, and you can see back here that Our session is now gone. I hope you maybe got some ideas out of this demo, and thanks for watching.